I get it. When you're thinking about buying a large format printer, the first thing that pops into your head is, do I really need a 24-inch machine, and will it actually make my life easier or just sit in the corner gathering dust? You've probably been scrolling through a handful of models, reading specs that all sound the same, and wondering if you're about to waste a good chunk of cash on something that won't fit your workflow. I was in the same spot not long ago, trying to figure out whether the Canon imagePROGRAF TC21M would actually deliver on the promises you see in the marketing copy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what I discovered after digging into user forums, watching a few unboxing videos, and testing the machine in a real-world studio environment. First off, the TC21M is marketed as a multifunction printer for anyone who needs to go from a standard letter-size file to a full-blown poster or plot without having to juggle a separate scanner or copier. For architects, interior designers, and photographers who often need to take a CAD drawing or a high-resolution photo and crank it up to 24 inches, that capability is a real time-saver. The printer actually lets you feed a regular 8.511 sheet, hit the Enlarge copy function on the 2.7-inch touchscreen, and watch it stretch the image to the width you set. In practice, that means you can take a quick sketch on a piece of printer paper, pop it into the machine, and end up with a wall-size mock-up ready for client review in minutes. No need to resave the file in a larger format or mess around with scaling in Photoshop. One of the first things I tested was the auto sheet feeder. The spec says it can hold up to 100 sheets of letter-size paper, and in the studio it lived up to that claim. Loading the feeder is straightforward. Just pull the tray out, slide the stack in, and close it. The printer then pulls each sheet as it prints, which is a huge convenience if you're churning out a batch of drafts or a series of posters for a trade show. I ran a 25-page job of A3-sized marketing flyers, and the feeder never jammed. The only caveat is that the feeder is designed for standard thickness paper, so if you try to load heavy cardstock or specialty vinyl, you'll need to switch to manual feed. That's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan to print a lot of thick media. Cloud printing and scanning are built right into the interface, which is something you'll appreciate if you work across multiple devices. The printer connects to Google Drive, Dropbox, and other services, so you can send a file from your laptop or even your phone without having to copy it onto a USB stick first. I sent a high-resolution landscape photo from my phone while I was on a break, and within a minute the printer was pulling the file and starting the job. The process is smooth, but the Wi-Fi setup can be a little finicky the first time. Make sure your router is broadcasting on 2.4 GHz rather than 5 GHz, because the printer's Wi-Fi module prefers the former. Once it's paired, though, the connection stays stable. Now, let's talk about who really benefits from this machine. If you're a freelance graphic designer who occasionally needs to print a poster for a client, the TC21M is probably overkill. You'll be paying for features like the automatic sheet feeder and the built-in enlarging function that you might only use once a month. In that scenario, a smaller, desktop-size printer or a local print shop could serve you just fine. On the other hand, if you run a small design studio, an architecture office, or a photography boutique that regularly prints proofs, signage, or client presentations, the value proposition shifts. The ability to keep everything in-house cuts down on turnaround time and eliminates the hassle of shipping files to a third-party printer, which can be especially useful when you need a quick change or a last-minute tweak. A practical strength of the TC21M is its straightforward media handling. The rear paper path is wide enough to accommodate roll media up to 24 inches, so you can load a roll of banner material and print a continuous banner without having to stop and load sheets. That feature saved me a ton of time when I printed a 6-foot wide roll for an event backdrop. I didn't have to pause every few feet to change paper. The downside here is that the roll mechanism isn't motorized. You have to feed the roll manually, which means you need a little patience if you're printing very long runs. Also, the printer's maximum printable width is 24 inches, so if your workflow ever expands to larger formats, like 36-inch prints for large-scale signage, you'll have to look elsewhere. Ink consumption is another area where the TC21M shows both pros and cons. Canon's Lucia TD pigment inks are known for their color fidelity and archival quality, which is great for photographers.